Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. What a week. What a week I'm having. Joe Townsend has been bearing with me. I need you to bear with me as well. I'm so disorganized this week because my play opened last night, and I hate how hungover I look, but it is what it is. So let's get the show started. Okay, more like this. Welcome to Starbase 80s Disco Nights, where I, John Weber, aka Captain John, am joined by my great and wonderful co-host Joe Townsend, and we help you recap and discuss. I left my door open. God, you can see my messy house behind me. Let's get Joe Townsend here, and I'll fix a few things, and Joe will explain to you what this show is.
Jonathan, quite a week for you, my friend, and I'm glad you have an opportunity to close your door before you get too embarrassed. The show, of course, as you say, is our official Starbase 80 review and recap show for Star Trek Discovery, and tonight we'll be covering episode 3 of season 5, and it's going to be a fun one.
It's been a look. We're 3 episodes in to Discovery, which is funny because as most people know, they played the first 2 episodes of this season on the first night, as Paramount likes to do, as Star Trek likes to do. Start with a big 2-hour splash, but that does put us in a weird position where you and I are doing our second episode of recap for the 3rd episode of the series. But it's Star Trek. What are you going to do?
Well, we'll spend 9 episodes covering this season of Discovery, but I don't think it's premature to tease a 11th hour special, which will recap the entire season, which will bring us up to 10 episodes. So we'll be even Steven at that point.
It is so not premature. It is post-mature. That is definitely happening. There will be a recap of the season and, well, of the series, right?
The series in total, yes, unless something changes, but I don't think so.
We should probably remind people that spoilers are going to be going crazy on this show. There is so much information that we will be sharing that you would want to have seen already. So it's been out a couple days now. You should go watch this episode, Janal. It is a fantastic episode.
I agree.
And
with a couple of caveats, which we'll get to.
Right. As there always are, which is why we get to have a show. Nothing's perfect. And so we get to discuss the not so perfect things along with the perfect things. But let's get into it. It's time for the beats. Yeah, I like that better. Joe Townsend, what are the groovy beats of this particular episode of Star Trek Discovery?
The groovy beat is as follows, Captain. And here we go. Just please hop in at any time. But here we go. Discovery's helm is programmed for the Black Alert coordinates for Trill, and the quest for the next piece of the Romulan puzzle continues. Cobra and Book brief the captain on the space pirates, Locke and Maul. Locke sounds kind of Yiddish to me, but never mind. Book knows Maul from way back. Tells Burnham, and she raises an eyebrow just like her brother Spock would do.
Yes.
Book is pining for his own redemption story arc and wants to tag along to Trill. He absolutely wants to put right what once went wrong, just like a 32nd century Sam Beckett.
He's quantum leaping, folks.
He's quantum leaping. Adira and Tilly have identified a Trill spots pattern on the map puzzle piece found in last episode. They are as unique as human fingerprints and saurian dorsal ridges, after all. So, spots mark the X, or more specifically, a 24th century Trill named Janal. Episode title alert. Is it possible that his Bix symbiote is still kicking inside a new Trill tummy? If so, answers to the next clue location await. Now, demoted Commander Rayner comes aboard, and Burnham orders her new first officer to mingle with the crew, despite his disinterest and dismissiveness. Stamets is still trying to unlock the secrets in Dr. Velik's antique tricorder, and gets pretty darn excited as the layers of mystery are peeled away like an onion. Meanwhile, Adira is pretty nervous over seeing Gray again, and Stamets is too engrossed to notice. Reno reminds him to get his head out of his butt. Trill at last. Well, the Spore Drive trip took about 10 seconds, but it took, it seemed longer.
If it's a trip.
Yes. The Guardian from Trill uses his direct message hologram, still buggy after all these centuries, and poses a riddle to Burnham. Got to get the right answer to be deemed suitable. Thankfully, before Wayne and Garth can utter, "We're not worthy, we're not worthy," Michael remembers that the answer to the riddle was revealed in last week's episodes. Beta Z, of course.
Right.
Now it's time to use those nifty personal transporters and beam on down to the caves of Makala with Adira, Culber, and Book, where they meet what may be the oldest Trill ever. She is also very thrifty and is quickly nicknamed Cheap Trill.
Oh.
Just kidding on the last part, but you knew that pun was coming, didn't you, Captain?
Cheap Trill, I love it.
Okay, so Calzara Bix tells the gang she's been waiting for her whole life for a worthy seeker. For more questions, they can ask Janal directly by transferring his winning personality to Culber. Plus, it gives Wilson Cruz a chance to stretch his acting chops a little to play a different character. Time for more cowboy diplomacy, as Janal gives Culber a spring to his step and a swagger to his gait. Culber Janal, hereinafter referred to as Janalber, says the next clue is nearby. Michael suggests instant beaming since time is of the essence. After all, the episode is nearly half over, and the quest hasn't really started yet. Ha! Pish tosh, says Janalber. Today is a fine day for a stroll and encountering cloaking monsters. Janalber is calling the shots, so Michael and Book reluctantly settle for taking the scenic route. Upon their arrival to the canyon, Janalber provides some much-needed exposition in this muddled episode.
Yeah.
Here's the gist. Romulan Dr. Velik, Janalber, and 4 other scientists found the progenitor tech, but decided it was way too dangerous to reveal to the feeble-minded Federation folk. Besides, there was a war with the Dominion going on at the time. Things were very hectic then. Instead, the holier-than-thou scientists made a fun mystery quest out of the whole thing, something Sherlock Holmes would have admired. So the game is afoot. Janalber isn't sure that, even in the 32nd century, Federation flunkies are ready for the progenitor's mystery box to be opened. This despite their ability to zap from one locale to another in mere seconds, and the captain's ability to produce crocodile tears on demand. Michael needs to keep things moving and persuades Janalber to give them the benefit of the doubt. Besides, giant, partially cloaked Intronoct predators are hot on their trail. Ready phasers, suggests Janalber, to which he snickers to himself. Just wait till later tonight, silly humans. They're always trigger happy. The plot is moving too quickly, so time for slamming on the brakes. So back at Starfleet HQ, now Ambassador Saru is settling into his new office with a little help from his Vulcan squeeze.
Yeah.
They chat about their wedding announcement, which is naive on Saru's part. Doesn't he know the bride always calls the shots? Time to attend a resource meeting where we'll be treated to a few Easter eggs. Stay tuned for Townsend's tidbits shortly.
Oh, nice.
All right.
Oh,
Saru makes a good first impression to everyone, that is, except a bigoted Vulcan purist named Duvan. Tiny planets followed my advice, Saru says. Be a 32nd century Alfred E. Newman or Bobby McFerrin. Don't worry, be happy. We'll protect you all from those bullying Breen. Future episode foreshadowing, perhaps?
Yeah, perhaps.
Perhaps. Duvin doesn't even attempt to hide his bigotry as he takes Saru aside to admonish him about his upcoming nuptials to the Vulcan Prez. Nothing personal, Duvin reassures. Some of my best friends are Calipian. But it's those other close-minded Vulcans, you understand. Despite Saru's impressive intelligence, he falls for one of the oldest plot chestnuts known to hack writers. He takes Duvin's inappropriate remarks to heart and brings it up to his betrothed. What makes you think I need a big, strong macho man to protect me, she asks. Getting as close to pissed as Vulcans get. Oopsie. Saru decides he'll need to smooth things over with his future missus as soon as possible. Meanwhile, back on the disco, Saru's replacement is pretty annoyed. For some reason, Tilly is organizing Raynor's meet and greets. He considers himself above it all, but Tilly reminds him that he shouldn't disobey his new captain's orders to get to know the crew. Fine, he says, being snooty. Ever going to have 20 words and not one word more. Montage time to get some info on the replacement bridge crew, probably for the first and last time.
Oh, ouch. So true. Ow. That hurts.
Discovery crew, we hardly knew ye. Stamets shows up all giddy and flushed, having decoded Velik's journal. Raynor practically ignores him, and Stamets leaves to go sulk. Tilly has finally had enough. She lets the new number one know that she thinks he's a steaming pile of number two. Adira is spared Raynor's dismissive, condescending behavior. The lone member of the landing party not on the quest across the Tatooine desert, oh, there's wrong franchise again, is having a heart-to-heart with Gray. To their mutual relief, Adira and Gray decide that a long-distance relationship just doesn't work for them and decide to go their separate ways. Now, back to the exciting stuff in the desert. Jan Albert decides it's getting too dark and dangerous to retrieve the puzzle clue for that night, so he goes off to stargaze and snicker at his travel companions. Book tries his glowing forehead empathy thing, but all he gets from the glowing cloak monster is that it's really irked.
That's a nicer word than he used.
In an early retread of a plot device from the previous episode, Book does some distracting while the monster blows some really lethal farts his way. During the melee, Michael scampers to the rock with the clue symbol on it to get the big prize. Right. Well, unfortunately, things do not go as planned, and Book gets hit. Michael and Book are trapped between a rock and a hard place, literally, as a second monster uncloaks. But in a clever twist, used numerous times in past Star Trek, the creatures aren't looking at Starfleet duo as food or even playthings. No, indeed. They're just concerned Mama and Papa protecting their nest of monster eggs. More glowing, cloaking monsters on the way. So it's time for Plan B. Michael and Book put away their magic phasers and decide to find the elusive Janalber. The Intronauts are now reassured that the puny humans don't pose a threat to their unhatched urchins. Now, upon finding Janalber, he quips, I see you survived. Well, finally, Michael figures it out after recalling episodes like Devil in the Dark and Encounter at Farpoint.
Yeah.
Janalber lured them to that nest after suggesting they arm phasers. By connecting instead of shooting, they passed the test. Would you have let us die if we failed, Book asks. In a heartbeat, Janalber answers. Then, wouldn't you know it, the next piece of the puzzle is under a nearby rock. That rascally Trill. After Cobra gets whopped back, he loses his mischievous behavior and swagger. He heads back to Disco to rest up for being possessed and being out of uniform. Now, in Red the Ferengi's bar, Michael and Cobra reflect on their spiritual journey, showing their softer sides. Very out of character for both of them. Snicker. Also in the bar, Tilly is approached by Raynor, who sheepishly admits that maybe, just maybe, there's some value in showing respect to others. So finally back at Starfleet HQ, Saru manages to apologize to Tarina for being a big dope. Think nothing of it, baby, she says. All is forgiven and forgotten. But no more Kelpian splaining, you hear? Yes, dear, Saru agrees, securing his future as a whipped milquetoast.
Damn.
So before the end credits roll, it's back to the Trill Caves with Bix returning to the Symbiont pool. Adir and Gray now say, "Happy trails. Time for the secret Trill handshake all around." But wait, who's that under that red cloak? And who's that behind those Foster Grants? It's Maul. She's disguised as a Trill, and she places something onto Adira's sleeve before the ensign beams back to the disco.
Right, that's right.
To be continued next week.
Wow. That's fantastic. Those are exactly the elements that happened, and very good take. Let's give it up. Give it up for Mr. Townsley.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you very much. I see we got some great comments coming in.
We do. Joshua Postel, who recently had a birthday. Happy birthday, Josh. Says, "Can I get my hands on one of those cloaking critters? I'd really like some extra room on the subway." That's New York for you. That is New York. And then he was starting to give it away, so I wasn't going to put this one up right away. But this week on Discovery, treasure hunt and a Trill breakup. It's time for us to talk about this stuff. It's time to get down and dirty. One of the interesting things about this season, and correct me if you think I'm wrong at all, Joe.
Sure.
But I do believe we're running into a lot of, we're going to tie up a plot string in this episode, and the next episode we'll tie up a couple other plot strings maybe. I wonder if that is the major pattern we're seeing here.
I believe you're right, John. I mean, one thing I do admire about what we've seen so far is that unlike past seasons, we have the mystery box, literally.
Yeah.
But we are getting, as I alluded to earlier, we are getting layers peeled away. It isn't something we're just supposed to wonder about for 10, 12, 13 episodes.
Yeah.
And then, unfortunately, in a couple of occasions, been let down by the reveal. We are getting elements every week with maybe new intriguing mysteries along the way. So I think that's a better approach.
Yeah. It's interesting that it's post-Trek storytelling here. Like a lot of things that have been done on Trek before, as you point out. I mean, heck, this was actually the whole thing about this monster, this alleged monster, is actually just a parent protecting their children. I mean, I saw that on Stargate Universe. I've seen that everywhere. It's such a simple plot point, but it is very Trek. So, of course, I have no problem there. But
I'm sorry, John. Horta here's a who? What did you say?
Right. Horta here's a who. Townsell's a great writer, and you should know that.
I can't get credit for that. It's an oldie but a goodie.
Well, it's good. It's good. Well edited.
Thank you.
I guess I have a problem here. And my problem is this is very much the journey. It's very much a story about a journey. And unfortunately, it's not a story about more than that. They're trying, and in some ways, I think the trying is actually annoying to me. Am I just an old man now? Because this sort of crisis of faith that Culber is going through, I kind of don't get it. It kind of doesn't make sense to me. And I feel like they're putting him and they're putting through Raynor. They're putting Raynor through some extremely basic stuff. Wilson Cruz is a really lovable actor, and I do love the line where Janal is, possessing him and wow, the guy who owns this body really works out.
Look at that six-pack.
Wilson Cruz says he's got a low body fat. That guy works. That guy makes it happen. So I like that they, I like they make references to that. But this, Dr. Culber carries a great emotional weight. They've been doing this for a long time, and I'm never quite sure what it means. I don't feel like they explain it really well. I don't know. Am I wrong here?
I don't think there's any right or wrong here. We are talking subjectively, but I will point out that I'd have to go back and rewatch some old episodes, but I think this particular attack on the character goes back to when he was presumed dead, and then the kind of the spore alternate reality or whatever it was way back in season 1 or 2.
Right.
So it could be he's been making his way back spiritually since then. I do agree that I think what we're getting here is what we saw a lot in the original cast Trek movies. So we have these characters, we got to give them one good bit each.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it fell flat. I think we might be experiencing a bit of that here, but respectfully, Captain, one thing I will disagree with you on is that I am enjoying the journey in the sense that we are finally in Discovery getting a little bit of Strange New Worlds. Not to plug another show, but you get my meaning. I mean, we're visiting different places. We're hopping along the path.
Good
and
point.
As long as they keep that interesting, and this one was fairly interesting even though it was a tried and true Trek cliche, ultimately.
Right.
We are getting to see a little bit more of something other than just, okay, we're on Discovery and we're trying to save the galaxy type of thing.
Yeah. I mean, the what was episode number 2 called?
Under the Twin Moons.
Under the Twin Moons. In Under the Twin Moons, you've got the captain and you've got Saru, and they're hiding under rubble while under attack. And in the very next episode, you've got Burnham and Book, having the same kind of conversations. What are we going to do? Hiding behind rubble. I don't know. These samenesses, they kind of nibble at my ankle, if you will. They kind of bother me a little. Then again, it's not ruining it for me.
Well, there was no less than 4 distinct storylines in this episode.
True.
I will say that the bit pursuing the clue with Book, Michael, and Janalber suffered from a poor resolution.
Yeah.
Along the way, it was interesting. I especially like the cloaking, glowing monsters.
Yeah.
But I have to tell you, like I alluded to this in the beats, they could have just scratched the whole Saru storyline.
Let's talk about the Saru storyline.
Yes. Let's
Are we getting to something big and serious? Because right now it doesn't seem big, and it sure doesn't seem. I mean, it's serious to them, but I mean, a little domestic bliss gone wrong. A little, I will give them this. So the president and Saru, having their romance. I do like the elements where we find out what it's like to be in a relationship with a Vulcan. That happened with, is it Amanda?
Well, yes, Amanda Grayson, Spock's mother.
Yeah. And we saw her earlier in this series and what life was like for her as Michael's adoptive mother. And I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, it was a big part of Enterprise with Trip and not T'Pol, right?
Yeah, it was T'Pol.
Yeah, I'm always never 100% sure on her name.
Well, it may have slipped your mind for a moment, Captain, but you be guaranteed it didn't slip Trip's mind. That was very memorable for him, I'm sure.
And even on Strange New Worlds, with Spock's relationship with his own wife, who is full Klingon, full Vulcan, and he's half Vulcan. And so it's interesting that they've done this a lot, and yet somehow this fanboy is like, yeah, I like learning about this. It's, you know what it is? It's the watching someone have to negotiate the difficulty of getting along with another person whose thinking is so different.
Yes.
And I think a lot of us can relate to that. I think a lot of us have been in those relationships. The other person is so different. You feel like you're going back to the beginning and relearning everything with them.
So we are in a different era in the 32nd century, and
Oh
That's
yeah.
a pro and a con for me as presented this week, because it's like one thing that's become a cliche since Enterprise
Mm,
has been the xenophobic, mistrustful Vulcan sect,
right.
and this is
Right.
still happening in the 32nd century. I don't want my characters to be perfect by any means, and um, as the president herself said, conflict is of the essence. I mean, that's
Yeah.
part of nature.
Yeah, it is.
So take that, G. Roddenberry. But
You know something though? That's such a funny line that you would bring that up, because I feel like so much of this is take that, Gene Roddenberry. I feel like the new first officer being
yes,
this incredible jerk, this unbelievable jerk. And I think it was you, Joe, who
Mhm.
pointed out that this is so much like when we met Captain Shaw in the third season of Picard. You're meeting somebody who has no desire to get along with you.
Yes, we have Shaw, and it occurred to me later. I mean, we've definitely seen some aspects of Jellicoe here.
Oh, Jellicoe, yeah. Oh boy. I what I loved about Jellicoe back in the Next Generation was he fit within the larger picture of how things work in Starfleet, but he was just so different from the heroes that we've been watching. He's more an administrator, more a numbers guy. When we meet Captain Shaw, he's more a hardware guy. He's
Mhm.
he was an engineer. So it's not so much about people skills, leadership skills. He tells his story, and he was never he feels he was never supposed to survive fighting the Borg. So it is great. I've said this a lot too. Uh, it is great when we see the different styles that exist within Star Trek, and that it's not all just variations on cowboy diplomacy
Right.
or like super wise English daddy. I'm sorry, French daddy with Picard, because let's face it, he was like the ultimate father figure in Star Trek, as far as I'm concerned. But there's other styles. And we've kind of seen the other styles too. Janeway had her own style on Voyager. And well, you know how I feel about Captain Cisco from DS9. He was nothing but style.
Well, I think those points bring you right back to your original comments about how the dynamic between Saru and Terrell seem new again. We've seen interactions with Vulcans as mates and with um, colleagues and leaders, but this is a new dynamic, and since they're both in the upper echelon in that sense, and I
Yeah.
will forgive them this little bit weak story line this week
Yeah.
if it pays off into something bigger later.
That is a great point. And so remind me when we do predictions that we're talking about Saru and Takrill. Is that her name
Will
right?
do.
Is that her name right? I do want to bring up because Josh has got some great comments here. The new commander is a monumental jerk. But here's the dark question I'm going to ask. There are times when you might not want to be too close to your crew if you have to send them to your deaths.
Mhm.
That could definitely be a style. Absolutely. And I think it's funny. I mean, clearly time restraints and budget restraints have necessitated this, but we know he was a captain. We just never saw it. We never saw
Exactly.
him on his ship. We never saw him relating to his crew. He must have had a good sized crew. We see him as this lone guy who is kind of the loser, and that he's got a redemption offered to him by Burnham. And who knows where he's gonna go. So far, it's just hey, I hate to put it like this, but it's a Tilly storyline. It's more about interpersonal relationships and treating people the way they want to be treated, the way you want to be treated. Like this is around Tilly a lot.
Yeah.
Was it this episode or one of her previous episodes? I think it was I think it might have even been the first episode of this season where she says, well, I can't crash with a ship full of cadets on an ice planet every time. Wait, can I?
It was in the first episode to last season.
And I do love that reference. And honestly, it's so funny when she said that, because I was like, well, of course you can. You still have hollow suites, don't you?
Yes.
Like, do that as a training exercise. We've crashed. What are you going to do, everybody? There's a monster. Anyway, we're back in this timeline. We're talking about this stuff. Anything else we want to get down and dirty about?
Today, before moving on, is it's just a darn both Tilly and Rayner that she used up her whole 20 words before she uttered the big word, which I thought was really clever and cool.
That's such a Tilly scene, and I do love Tilly. She is it's amazing to me to watch this show, especially when there are the scientists around, and there's Tilly and Adira and Stamets, and they're all doing that geek talk that I always liked so much when it was LaForge and Data and Wesley. And I see it now and I go, 20-year-old me would not have been as happy to watch this as 60-something-year-old me is. Like, how much have I changed? The show's changed a lot, of course, but I've changed a lot too, because I just really like these characters. I see past the physical appearance, which is very not classic Trek. If you look at TOS, the way actors looked in that, all the men were thin, all the women were like gorgeous showgirls. Then Next Generation, we used to make fun, all the actors that I know, we used to always make fun of it because they weren't hiring actors, they were hiring daytime drama actors.
Mm-hmm.
and actually Jonathan Frakes was married to what's her name
Jeannie Francis.
Jeannie Francis from General Hospital, but he had been on a soap or two in his time, and we knew a lot of people who would get hired to do guest stuff, and almost all of them were gorgeous people who did soap operas. And that's just how it was. They get a little more gritty and a little more real, the casting in DS9 and then in Voyager. But Enterprise is a gorgeous people show. And so I really love, and I will say Strange New Worlds, everybody's gorgeous. Everybody's, 10% body fat or lower. Everybody is just so damn attractive, pretty much, on that show. A couple of exceptions here and there, but you got to give it to Discovery. Discovery is the all shapes, all sizes, all shades of color. All kinds of either sexuality or perceived gender. Quite the rainbow, if you will. And I think that would have really annoyed young me, but for some reason, old me is just like, I just love this show. I'm sad it's ending.
Yeah, like I said, when I mentioned earlier that they had to tack on a last minute ending scene to make it a series finale. This was not their intention when they filmed this.
Right. This was a break. This is a break from all the seriousness.
Oh, looking ahead, of course, this week, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something continue in some form down.
As a matter of
shakeups
fact,
because of Paramount,
Right. As a matter of fact, I think that brings us to predictions. Because let's face it, this is all going somewhere, and we should call it. Let's start with. I don't think anything really serious or unusual is going to happen with our Captain Burnham. I think she's very much the captain, and in that like Jean-Luc Picard way, yeah, she'll go on adventures, but she's not going to change a whole lot. But let's start going down the line. Rayner, Any predictions about what's going to happen with him?
Well, I mean, it's not much of a prediction. I think it's pretty much a certainty that we're going to see a Captain Shaw type arc with him over the course of the next remaining episodes. And we saw a little chink in that defensive armor at the end
Mm,
of this week.
yeah.
So I don't know that we're setting up for something ongoing. I
Hmm.
hope we don't see him die. I think that would just be I think it was a mistake with Shaw, and I think it would be a mistake with Rayner.
A little worried about that, I have to admit. A little bit worried.
Although we have to take into account I would say the low stakes. I mean, it's not low stakes, but it's not um we're not all getting ready for the galaxy to implode this season. So it would be a tonal shift back to the gloom and doom of previous seasons. I'm not looking for that, honestly.
I'm not either, and actually, that's an excellent sidebar. Um, I wonder if that's where they're pushing this. I wonder if they're building the pressure and building the pressure because somehow, well, okay, what can go wrong? The
Mhm.
power of the gods. I mean, gods, like the power of creation and alteration, and as they bring up even in this episode, the ability to bring the dead back, you
Yes.
know, to the living. Um, it's wild, these powers that they're going after. So clearly that has to build up at some point, the pressure on that. And I think that means that Maul and uh Locks get their do they get their hands on it? She's the wild one. Is she the one who starts wielding the power wrong? That could be where we're headed. um I don't know. This has so many cliches built into it. I'm worried that we're going to see some of those. Will it get more serious, do you think, or is it going to be adventure movie right up to the end?
I think it's gonna be an adventure movie right up to the end, but not including the end. I think we will get some high stakes. The last episode, maybe two.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I see your point, John, because we did get a very strong Wrath of Khan vibe when describing the two flip sides of this progenitor's technology.
Right, right. That there's a destruction to this level of creativity.
Mhm.
And so that's a possibility. Let's get back to the characters. Are we going to I don't know where we're going with Culber. A lot of times on this show, if there's a lot of character change, it happened to Tilly, it has happened to Saru. Basically, what they do is they ship off the ship. They're no longer on Discovery. And they go have these other careers that we keep looking in on because they're great characters and there are
Sure.
characters. So I totally get that. But yeah, I wonder where this is leading with Culber. It's not personal. His husband's doing fine. His
Mhm.
kids, relatively speaking, are doing fine. Although I always thought it was kind of adorable and a little bit strange that they adopted Adira and Gray, who were a couple, and now they've broken up. Oh, and can I just say, oh my God, one of the easiest breakups I've ever seen.
Oh, that's why I was so dismissive of it almost in the beats. Like, okay, I mean, at any given time, we're going to be millions of light years apart, so there's no
Right.
sense in continuing this farce. Come on.
Well, and it just couldn't be more different what they're doing. And they've been
Right.
great at relating us to that too. Gray does a lot of really awesome Trill stuff. Were you ever a fan of the Trill?
Oh, sure. Well, and you mentioned gorgeous people. Of course, I was a big fan of Terry Farrell and
Oh
it's
yeah.
Jadzia.
Oh yeah.
But going all the way back to the host in TNG, I thought it was a great concept. I thought that initial introduction to
Yeah.
the show was great.
Yeah.
With Riker hosting
Yeah.
the symbiote, and just taken to the nth degree in DS9. So yes, absolutely. I think it's one of the more notable races in all of Trek.
I love that they used that as one of the plot devices. I mean, how are you going to talk to somebody who's 900 years old? Oh, wait,
Mhm.
we've got the Trill.
Yes.
And you know, I was under the impression that the Trill host, can't remember her name, was saying, "Look, me and basically the space slug in my body are freaking exhausted. Could we just move
Yes.
this on?" I love that. Because I have a feeling that this symbiote is close to death. That's what they seem to be saying, although the character didn't seem to express that very much once the character was, you know, hosted by Culber.
Well, that's the point, though, is that at that point he was in a young, healthy, ripped body, you know. So,
Well, I wonder. There must be some technical thing, and I don't know if they mentioned it or it went unmentioned. But yeah, I don't know if this. I don't know if this particular symbiote is going to go into anybody else. I think this might be it for them.
well, it occurred to me, and that I equate the symbiotes on par with like Yoda, not immortal, but
Mm.
long duration of life.
Right,
Eight,
right.
nine
Okay.
hundred years, 1,000 years, but that's the limit, you know.
Yeah. No, no, no.
And we're
That
there.
makes a lot of sense. That's what
Yeah,
I felt like I was picking up that they were
yeah.
putting down. You know, it's probably time, but we got any MVPs in this one, Mr. Townsell?
Well, I do. I have a feeling we might have the same pick, but maybe not. Maybe you'll surprise me. But you let me go first. I'll spoil it
you
if that's the case.
You go right ahead.
I have to give it to Culber, obviously. I mean, the performance by Wilson Cruz as not a drastically different character, but someone that definitely had many more centuries
Yeah.
of life experience and just kind of a mischievous little twinkle in his eye, and like I said before, a swagger to his step,
Yeah. Yeah.
and not you know, of course, the one that drove the plot along as far as obtaining the next clue within the story. I think the MVP for me has to be Janalber.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I absolutely agree. Though Rayner was a interesting character. I do love the, you know, you were so mean to people. Yes, but this is what I learned. I learned this. I learned this. I learned this. You know, I don't have to be nice to these people to learn all about them. That's true.
Yeah.
That is a management style. It's not a great one, but it is a style, and I'm still buying him. But
Mhm.
yeah, I gotta say, Janalber is great. And what I love, there was a moment. I wish I could remember the exact line. It was basically, "Doctor, you don't have to be the one to do this." And
I know what you mean.
Dr. Culber says, "I am the one that does this."
Yes.
And I love that because the doctors in all of our Star Treks have their own storylines and have their own different kind of path from everybody else on the ship. And I do love that they keep doing that. I have so much affection for all the doctors. Even the doctor on Strange New Worlds, Doctor.
Now I'm drawing a blank, but yeah, we all know who you mean, of course.
Cool black guy.
Yeah.
One, of course, Nurse Chapel. Oh, I'm sorry, she's a doctor now too, isn't she?
Well, not in Strange New Worlds.
Not in Strange New Worlds. I love Chapel. I love her so much. I love all the chapels, all the forms of chapel. But
Dr. Mabinga.
Mabenga, thank you. Oh my gosh, shame on me for forgetting this. All right. You know something? I'm ready to do a commercial, and this is something I have wanted to see for a while. Now, as you may know at home, and I've told Joe a bunch of times, for some reason, my display for him, and I think it's my video card, honestly, Joe. My display for him, it's very hard to see his face. It scrambles on my screen. So I'm going to take myself offline so I can see Joe's face as he. Okay, so here's a commercial that I made for Joe's website, joetownsell.com. Here.
joetownsell.com. joetownsell.com.
I, as you, as you know, I have been playing around with AI to construct music for our shows. It's been going pretty well, and that one was I can't I can't take any of the credit. The AI that made that song did like a female-led Marilyn Manson. I don't even know how I got there, but I love hearing her scream your name.
As do I. I wish I could meet her.
I I also love that not every version was doing this, but this was the version that did this. And Joe's a good guy to know. I love that. And I also love the line was he can hook you up. But the way she
I
does
caught
it,
all of it. I was listening intently, and John, you were might be put off for some reason, but oh my goodness, no, that's a keeper. That's the top of the Lazo.com ad.
I'm happy to hear that because we don't talk a lot about music, so I don't know what I don't know if this kind of music is just obnoxious noise to you or but what I'll do is I will upload onto Weber Internet Thingy, which is our host channel. I will create a music video for the entire song, which is 7 minutes long.
Well, if you need more graphics, I'll contribute that for sure.
I can do that. I mean, honestly, it's so. Oh, I'm very proud of this song. And
It's great. Thank you, John.
oh,
I love it.
no, I wasn't fishing, I swear. But it just worked out. I mean, honestly, that's the thing about AI. You write the description of the style you want. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. And this one was more than I asked for. So I'm very happy you like it. That is your new theme song for a while, Joe.
I think it's great. Please, I look forward to hearing it again sometime soon. Not tomorrow, because we'll be talking about that here shortly. But I don't want us to forget though. Before we sign off for now, we do have some tidbits if you're interested.
Oh, I absolutely. That was my next move.
Oh, cool.
My next move was let's get the full benefit of Townsville's tidbits. I wish I had some tidbits, but it has been so busy. I just haven't been taking down notes or doing research. But Joe loves to do the research, and folks, you're gonna love what he's come up with for you. So, Mr. Townsville, what are your tidbits this week? Oh, picture froze. Oh, I hate when this happens. Poor Joe. And it's raining here, so I don't know if it's us. I don't know if it's Joe. Oh dear. Well, you know what? I will take this time. Oh, there you are, Joe.
Yeah, I winked out for a minute there. Sorry about that, folks.
No problem. Not your fault, man.
Let's rattle them off before it happens again. Not that I want to jinx anything, but here we go. Some tidbits for this week's episode. Let me fumble over this pronunciation. The Jahantara ritual was first seen in DS9's Facets.
Yes.
Where the Niners lent their bodies for the past Daxus to inhabit for that hour of TV.
Yeah.
Most notably, Odo as Curzon.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Red's Bar is operated by Ferengi. He serves a drink called a Sluggo Cola, which looks green, thick, and according to our new first officer, is somewhat radioactive looking. Of course, the Soleil, the Cobra-looking aliens at the big meeting, were first seen in TNG's Lonely Among Us.
Oh, wow.
Along with the cat people that wanted to eat them.
Oh, yeah.
They go that far back. Lieutenant Christopher assures Raynor that the Tribble was neutered, so no worries there.
I'm so glad we got that explanation.
Isn't it? And we also confirmed that Lieutenant Commander Nilsson has been reassigned to the USS Voyager J.
Oh, I didn't catch that. I do love Nilsson.
Maul has infiltrated Tro, as we said, and put the tracking patch on Adira, just like Spock did to Kirk in Star Trek VI, of course.
Oh.
Ractogenos are mentioned, as is Tilly's possible addiction to the Klingon coffee beverage.
Yes.
A quick spotting of the season 3 gray uniforms, which were very unpopular, but they had to recycle them somehow. We did get mentions of Picard, of course, and the Dominion War.
Yes.
Reese is a fan of the classic 23rd century Constitution class design.
I love that. I'm a ship head. That Picard's son in season 3 of Picard is the same. And why wouldn't you be? I mean, honestly, if you lived in the Federation, you would have your favorite model of ship.
Of
And Joe
course.
Townsend, what would your favorite model of ship be?
My favorite model of ship, I have to say, was the refit of the Enterprise, first seen in motion picture.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a gorgeous one. Yeah, I do love the is it Galaxy class from Next Generation, the fat one?
The fat one, yes. The Enterprise D was the Galaxy class.
I always loved that. That to me seemed like one of the biggest ships you could possibly have. And I loved how much they used it. So yeah, a little bit of a
Absolutely.
ship head myself. Although I have to say, my other favorite is the Defiant, which is in many ways the absolute opposite.
Interesting.
Is Defiant a member of a class?
I believe it was the Defiant class.
The Defiant class, yeah, because
Yes.
I know there are 1 or 2 other ships similar to the Defiant.
Well, they had the Valiant, which was in DS9,
Yeah,
which was commanded by a bunch of lost cadets,
that's right.
poorly led. And
Yes.
I can't remember the name of the ship originally, but they did christen a Defiant class vessel into a new Defiant.
Right, right, yeah.
So there were at least
Defiant,
3.
yeah. I loved that. I loved that it had a backstory, which is that Commander Sisko had been working on it when he was in charge of a shipyard. And
Right.
so, it was this like super sexy, underused kind of model. Very
Yeah,
cool.
designed to take on the Borg when it finally did. In fact, you got beaten in like in 2 seconds. But that's we're not keeping score here.
I'm sorry. Any more of the
Just a couple.
Townsend tidbits?
Yes, worth noting. Other mentions: the Binars and the frigging game of Tongo are both
Oh
mentioned.
yeah. Oh yeah.
I do like Saru's Vulcan proverb: "To rush a salat is to risk a goring." And I think I'll wrap it up on that. I think those are the best tidbits this week.
Absolutely. Not only are we thrilled to have watched the 3 episodes that we've watched so far, but we're very much looking forward to next Saturday.
Yes,
Uh,
indeed.
Next Saturday is when I start teaching my morning class and then get home in time to do this because God knows I haven't been frazzled enough. But yeah, next time we will be watching Face the Strange, and that'll be episode 4 of this 5th and final season. So we hope you'll join us for that,
Please.
and we'll be discussing that. If you are a fan of Joe and or mine, but come on, everybody's a fan of Joe.
And John.
Tomorrow we will have our very first encore presentation, and this is a special edit of this show. We had to go from 1 hour and 40 minutes to under an hour because that's all StreamYard will let me load up for a show. So, oh my God, so many edits. So many edits. Some of them are actually good edits. Most are not. But it was a super fun show. And Tony Luna, our very good friend, was so great. And just a very positive, happy trip down memory lane, which is really a great description of Retro Rangers to begin with.
Absolutely.
And Joe, you are going to be now. You won't be hosting because it's just an edited rebroadcast, but you will be in the comments.
Yes, I will sign on at again, note our new time, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. I will sign on at 7 p.m. Eastern, or excuse me, Pacific time. And yes, I mean, I'm going to just be adding new comments. Old comments from the original broadcast will be visible on the screen.
Yes.
But please, everyone, if you missed it the first time, especially because this poor episode lasted about half an hour after we did it live before John had to edit it. But But please join me in the comments tomorrow while John is working hard doing other things. And I would like to hear more about that, John, actually. Join me tomorrow, and we'll just have a great chat, a new chat in the comments tomorrow for this rebroadcast.
It is going to be so much fun. So there you go. For the time being, especially since we've got, oh my gosh, we've got 7 more episodes of Disco.
Yes.
7 more episodes of Discovery's final season. So we're going to be doing Saturdays and Sundays for at least 7 more weeks. We know we're going, we will have a summation episode. We're going to call it the 11th hour again.
Well, maybe not, because even though we covered 10 episodes and we'll recover them, our shows typically, I did tonight, but as I see by the clock on the wall, but they typically won't reach a full hour, but we have a few weeks to think about it.
Oh, good point. Yeah, good point. It won't literally be an hour, hopefully. All right. And with the spirit of moving things along, that'll do it for this week.
Yes.
Definitely bear with us as the weeks go by. We're going to have a whole lot of fun talking about this show. Tell your friends. Show up in the comments, just as Josh did. What did I not use from Josh? This was funny. No more Kelpian splaining, or I go Ponfar on you. And with that, we are dancing off your screen for another week. Joe Tazzle, thank you so much for on the show. We'll see you next week, my friend. See you later, everybody.